So today, what I would like to talk to you guys about is something that I feel like is not very popular on YouTube, and that is, what is it like living in a very small city and also living in a small state? I grew up on a farm. I lived on a farm for all of my life, and then I didn't actually live inside of a town until, like a city. I did not live inside of a town until I moved to college. So I was a freshman in college, and that was the first time that I ever lived inside of a city. So very common in farm kids' life is that you grow up on a farm, grow up on a ranch, out in the country, whatever. Even if you don't live on a farm, like a working farm, a lot of people still live out in the country. And something that is just super regular is they either ride the bus to school or their parents take them in every day. My parents did not take us into school, so we rode the bus every single morning to school, and the bus picked us up at 6:45 a.m. Yes, and school did not start until 8:10. So school started at 8:10 and we got picked up at 6:45. And honestly, the reason why we were the first ones to get picked up at 6:45 in the morning is because we lived the furthest away from the school, and so since we lived the furthest out of town, we had to get picked up first so that everybody else could get picked up from school, you know, on the route line. The second thing is, if you are from a super small town, you will also identify with this. My school, to this day, in 2020, my school where I went to grade school, middle school, and high school is still kindergarten through 12th grade. So the entire school is connected. It's not a one-room schoolhouse like back in the day. Like that's way too old for me. That was before my time. But my school is still kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, and those are all of the kids that are in the school. So like specifically with my school, it's literally like, imagine the capital letter H, and so one side is elementary and then one side is the middle school and high school, and then in between, like right here, like the horizontal little capital H going, like if you're picturing with me, like one side's high school, this side right here in the middle was like the gym and the commons and cafeteria, and then on this side, the other side, was like the elementary gym, the auditorium, and then the elementary side. But like I said, our high school and middle school was on the same side. It was on the same side of the building, so that just goes to show you how small our school was. The third thing that I want to address is the weather. And that might be something that is so underrated. Okay, because I have relatives that live in California, and they honestly have sunshine all year round. I think the weather is so underrated because I've spent time in South Carolina, I've spent time in Virginia, and I hated South Carolina. I'm sorry to anyone who's from South Carolina, but I am from the Midwest, okay? I melted in South Carolina. I could not handle it. I melted. I was dying. And it was just too humid for me, and I'm used to, obviously, the cold. I'm used to this cold weather. So right now it is 36 degrees and the high was 35. So we got above the high temps by 1 degree, and it was snowing last night. So it's like, it's cloudy, it's not nice out, it's literally 4 degrees from freezing. But the reason I wanted to mention that is because as much as I hate the cold, and as much as I always say that I'm gonna move out of here, I'm gonna move, I honestly love the weather here because you legitimately get to see every season. You may see every season in a week, but that's another story. But honestly, it's really nice and warm feeling, like home feeling, because obviously I grew up in the Midwest. But it's just so nice to have a summer, and you know, you go to the lake, you go swimming, all this and that, you know, like it's nice to actually enjoy a summer. and have that weather, and then transition into fall, and you actually start to see, you know, the leaves changing, and you feel the temperature start to drop. And then you actually have a winter where it's actually snowing, and you have a white Christmas and all of that. You know, yes, the ice and the snow sucks to drive in, but if you grew up in this weather, you're just really used to it. Especially if you're a country kid, like you didn't always have concrete roads to drive on, so like you're really used to it. And then the spring, like, and then everything, you know, you just, especially because of the snow, we get to see everything kind of transition into the spring, and everything like starts to come alive again, and it's just like you really get to see all of the seasons, and that's what I really, really enjoy. The next thing that I want to say that is something that's probably also underrated is not having to be in traffic. Okay, I live in my state's capital, but that does not mean that I live in the biggest city in my state. If I drive an hour down the road east, then I get more of a, like, this is a big metropolitan. So if I drive an hour east, then I will get to Omaha. And Omaha is so much bigger than Lincoln. Population of Lincoln is probably like 250,000 people. If it's more or less than that, I don't really know, but I know that it is about 200,000 people. The city that I went to college in was only 37,000 people. So, you know what I mean? It's like, for me, it's like the perfect stepping stone if I ever wanted to move somewhere bigger, because this is already a big city. Like, that's one thing that I think is super underrated, is not having to worry about traffic in a smaller city. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you all is that when you go anywhere, people are relatively nice to you. And I know that that can be said for a lot of places. I feel like the Midwest is consistently nice. One thing that is a little controversial about the Midwest is how, I don't want to say closed-minded some people are, but I feel like that is the only thing that is consistently true about the Midwest, is that they are not as open-minded as, say, somebody living in downtown LA. But that is a huge difference in, you know, where you're coming from. If somebody was born and raised in LA and then somebody's born and raised in the Midwest, like, that's, like, those don't communicate. Those are not the same. So, which is why it makes sense that if someone from LA were to move to the Midwest, they would be shocked a little bit, like, wow, you gave me directions instead of just blowing me off. Like, you actually suggested, like, do you want me to show you? Like, I will walk you to where you need to go. Like, I'll show you. Which is probably a big red flag for people. Like, no, I'm not gonna follow a stranger. I'm not gonna follow a stranger and have them walk me to my death. No. But in the Midwest, unfortunately, I think that people are a lot more trusting, and that's okay. But I think that as people, we just always naturally have, like, that sense of, like, no, I don't want to follow you, or yeah, I'll go with you. You know, it's like, I feel like we naturally have the ability to distinguish between who's good and who's not. That totally got sidetracked, but yeah, that's one thing that I really, really enjoy about the Midwest, is that people are genuinely nicer to you. I have run into people that are not as open-minded as you would hope they would be, but that is okay, because that's just how they grew up, and it's not my place to judge them, and it's not my place to try and change their mind. Everybody has different views about that, but that's where I stand. The next thing that I wanted to talk about the Midwest is that it is relatively cheaper to live in the Midwest, but everybody knows that. Everybody knows it. But for whatever reason, you know, everybody just kind of wants to live where it's hip and it's happening. And I don't mind. Like, I would love to move somewhere else. I think I would love to move to the East Coast. Not specifically the West Coast, just because I know that the West Coast is always, for the most part, super, super hot weather. And I'm not really about that. because like I said, I went to South Carolina and girl, I was melting. So like I would like to go towards like the East Coast or like the upper Northeast, you know, like I would like to try and dabble in that area. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh yes, it's cheaper to live in the Midwest. Okay, so for example, I work as a esthetician, so I'm a licensed esthetician in my state, and I have a lot of different people that come into my place of employment. And I have one client in particular that her brother is a medical malpractice attorney in Boston. So he lives in Boston, and he just bought a house that is only a 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom. So it's basically like a townhouse, like it's got the main level and then the top. So that house that he just bought goes for in Boston, and I don't know if he lives in, like, I didn't really ask because like I don't even know Boston real estate, like I just don't know it, so I don't know. But a 2-bedroom 1 bathroom house, like a townhouse that he bought in Boston, cost him, I believe she said, about $2 million. What? $2 million? What? I don't know. I guess I'm never moving to Boston because I can't afford to pay $2 million for a 2-bedroom house. A 2-bedroom house? Bitch, you move into the Midwest, you buy a 2-bedroom house, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, probably the same exact square footage, you'll be paying $80,000 to $150,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. You playing me if you think that that house is worth $2 million. No. No. I'll give you a perfect example right here. My boyfriend bought a duplex. So you know, a duplex is 2 units connected. Well, they're not like connected, but some of them are, some of them aren't. So 2 houses, 2 separate houses. And that literally, so one side of the unit has 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, in-unit washer dryer. The other part of the house is a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom washer dryer. So the difference is just 1 bathroom on this other side, right? Bought that duplex for less than $140,000. A duplex, y'all. And he's using that as residual income. Boom. The other thing that I love about the Midwest is just being able to be yourself and have cheerleaders like all over. And I mean like cheerleaders in the way that people just naturally root for you. Like if you go to work every day, and let's just say, for example, like I said, I'm an esthetician, and you all know that I recently went back to school, that I'm gonna try and apply to nursing schools. You know, like, so I have a job and I have a relationship with my bosses, and they are naturally just rooting for me. They are my biggest cheerleaders. They're like, you can do it, you can do it. And it's also because they're just such genuine ladies. But, you know, I don't know how many other people would be like all gung-ho to let one of their full-time employees go back to school and then completely cut back their hours to like less than part-time to pursue something that, you know, may or may not keep them at the business. So it's like, you don't commonly see that in other places besides the Midwest. I think it's more common to see things around a kinder environment in the Midwest. I don't want to just make this video all positive about them living in the Midwest, but I grew up in the Midwest. I love the Midwest, so I don't know. But there is one downfall that I would say, besides that people aren't as open-minded as you would like them to be. That was definitely one thing that was a negative. But the second negative thing that I would say that I can think of off the top of my head for living in the Midwest is that, well, specifically living in a small part of the Midwest, is that we don't have all of like the glitz and the glamour and like all of the different opportunities that the East or the West Coast has. Like, we just don't have that. And that just goes into like simple little things. Like, we just, I don't know, like the shopping, even shopping stuff. It's like, yes, we have like outlets and like, you know, just different little things of like that. But it's like, it takes so long for the Midwest to catch up to the East and the West Coast. But I mean, and that kind of just goes with, like I said, the shopping, the medical procedures, the restaurants, even a Trader Joe's, girl. Like, literally, get me another Trader Joe's. I want a second Trader Joe's, one that's closer to my house. I hate driving all the way across town just to get to the Trader Joe's. Like, get me another one. We have 3 Walmarts and I don't know how many Walgreens and CVS's. Get me another Trader Joe's closer to my house, okay? Thank you. And for the big reveal, where am I from? Where do I live? Nebraska. I was born and raised, I was not born in Nebraska, but I was basically born and raised in Nebraska. I've been in Nebraska my entire life. I have spent some time in other states, but I did not spend a long enough time in those states. Out of all of my 25 years, I would say that 20 of them have all been in the state of Nebraska. So that's everything that I have to tell you guys about why I love living in the Midwest and why it is just something that I feel is so underrated. If you guys live in the Midwest, please comment down and let me know if you love living in the Midwest or if you just absolutely hate it and you're ready to get out. Girl, I'm right there with you, but like, I need to finish nursing school first. I need to get into nursing school first of all, and then graduate from nursing school, and then I would be ready to move. But until then, just because I know that how safe and how cheap it is to live in Nebraska, that's the only reason why I'm not ready to move yet. I'm gonna be looking for my new place to live. But until then, I will be repping Nebraska, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!